Okay, we're in Parsha Vayikra. We started the new. Welcome everyone to Parsha Vayikra, the new sefer, the third sefer, right? Torah. What?
We're going out to halfway.
We're going almost in the halfway. That's right. I think it's in Parsha Shmini is exactly half the Torah words and then letters. But anyway. So it says, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayedaber Hashem elav, me'ohel moed lemar, Adam ki yakriv mikem karban lashem. So it says, he called to Moshe, and he spoke to him from the Ohel Moed, from the Mishkan, right? Saying, who do you think it is? Right.
The big he.
So he called to Moshe, and he spoke to him, and he said, Adam ki yakriv mikem karban lashem, a man that is bringing close karban, the terrible translation, but the only translation is sacrifice or offering, but it's not
Rectification.
It comes from, okay, that's better. I like that better.
Yeah.
But offering means we're offering something to Hashem. We can't offer to Hashem. We sacrifice. We're not sacrificing anything. When we take something, our money to do a pleasure, then we're sacrificing. But when we're going ahead and giving something to Hashem, it's not a sacrifice, right? Karov means getting closer to Hashem. That's what it really means. But there's no real word for it in English. So it says mikem, right? It could have just said ki yakriv karban, a person that brings a karban. Why did it have to say ki yakriv mikem, from you? So more than that, the base of Ram questions. It's saying Vayikra Biloshon Nistar, right? It says he called in a very hidden language. Why does it have to say he called without saying Hashem called? Like, would it answer your question? It could have just said Vayikra Hashem El Moshe, and Hashem called to Moshe. Why did it say Vayikra El Moshe without saying who was the one who called? Okay, so anything that is missing or extra in the Torah, seemingly, there's a reason. So, the base of Ram says this hints to the fact that there is a baskol, a voice from heaven coming, regularly saying shuvu banim, shovavim, that every one of us should come back, should return to Hashem, right?
Always say.
Yeah, it's a bat kol, meaning a voice from heaven, telling us to come back to Hashem. So this is the call for every Jew that has that call that Hashem is telling him that he should return. So the obvious question is, if there's a call, why aren't we hearing it, right? And if we aren't hearing it, what's the point of it coming out and calling? We can't hear it anyway, right? Have you heard the call? I haven't heard it, right? You heard it? Okay, we'll talk later. Okay, so if you hear a bat kol, it's one thing, but we don't hear the bat kol, so therefore, it seems like it's, what's the point? So he says that one of the explanations is that really to say it simply, it's the pintaliyit, that little spark inside us that sometimes I feel like some type of inspiration that I want to change, some type of uplifting, or I want to become better. I want to become a better person. I want to become a better husband, a better servant of Hashem. Whatever it is, I want to learn more Torah. I want to daven better. Whatever it is, and this awakening happens. That awakening is really the bat kol. That is the voice coming from heaven. So now, what does the chacham do? What does the wise person do? The wise person will go ahead and he will fulfill when something like this happens, he will fulfill the pasuk that says, "Achazti v'lo erpenu," that I will hold on to it and I won't let it go. Meaning, once I have an inspiration, I have to make sure to hold on to that inspiration and never let it go. How do I do that? So that if we there was like 10 different miracles that used to happen on a regular basis in the Beis Hamikdash, right? And the question, one of the miracles was lechem apanim, that the bread, the showbread, would stay fresh and warm and hot throughout the whole week, right? When the Bnei Yisrael came from all over Israel to the 3 times that they came, when they were leaving, right, the Kohanim came out with the lechem apanim. Kohanim came out to show them that the bread that was put in there last Friday was still hot, right? So, out of all the different miracles like that happened, why only that one, right? And I forgot who said this, but he says that the reason is because why is it that they're coming all together? Why are they coming to? Why is there a obligation for us to go to Yerushalayim by at least 3 times? It's more. It's Ma'aser Sheni. There's other reasons why we have to go to Yerushalayim, but at least 3 times we're going to Yerushalayim, right? Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, we're going to Yerushalayim. Why? To be able to get that orarut, to be able to get that inspiration, right? So that's exactly why the Kohanim bring out the lechem apanim, because the lechem apanim says just like this lechem is hot, even though it was there from a week ago, so too you should stay hot. That inspiration that you have should stay hot to be able to warm you up for the rest till the next time you're here. And the same thing goes over here. When a person has that inspiration, he has to find a way. Thank you. He has to find a way to be able to use it and continue it, and it should be mamshech. It shouldn't just have the inspiration, then tomorrow it's gone. So one of the things you can do is because of that inspiration, you take upon yourself something, right? So if let's say I was inspired by somebody, I watched somebody by the kotel or something happened, I said, I want to take upon something myself. Now, the problem is that if we take upon something ourselves and that is too difficult, then we won't stick with it. But if we take upon something that is very easy, let's say, instead of saying Asher Yatzar after going to the bathroom by heart, say it, have one of those posters and say it from the poster. Something like that. And this way you'll remember that inspiration that you had and continuously, right? We're saying, instead of saying Ashrei that we know by heart, say it from the siddur, right? Something simple. So this way it will stick with us. So, so this Kriya, just like now, the Psukim bring down one of the reasons why it says Vayikra el Moshe and it doesn't say Hashem, right? Because he was calling only to Moshe. If let's say if God is calling, right? So then seemingly I could understand that anybody could hear it, right? But Vayikra el Moshe, when Hashem called Moshe, and it says doesn't say Hashem's name, that means that only Moshe heard it, because it was directly for Moshe. And the same goes, like when we have an inspiration that something that happens in our lives that tells us something, like we have to do something with that. And a lot of times they're like, I'll have an inspiration and you won't, or you have an inspiration, I won't, right? That's not always at the same time. It's always different for each person because each person is important and special for Hashem. So, for instance, it reminds me of my sister-in-law, Sarah Gittel Tzvi. Her neshama should have an aliyah. So she one time she was telling me a story about what was going on with. She was trying to take one of my nephews to a certain specialist, and the insurance was not accepting. It wasn't gonna work, and it was thousands and thousands of dollars. It was like not covered. And it was something that he needed. It wasn't a elective surgery. It was a real something that he needed, and she couldn't understand. So she went ahead and she called one of the organizations, a Jewish organization in New York that helps with these things. And the lady started to get like a little bit perturbed by her instead of getting upset at her. And anybody would say, wait a second, you're coming, I'm calling to help, that for you to help, and you're getting upset at me? I don't have the money. So I would be, come on, what's wrong with this lady, right? She got off the phone and she was saying that there's something, that this is something that Hashem is trying to tell me. And turns out that she changed, doctors, and because she's thinking only this doctor that she has, and that's it, because she was with the doctor for a long time. But she changed doctors, and she figured out a way that the other doctor says, yeah, just simply do it 2 separate surgeries or 2 separate procedures, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And this way it was accepted. Meaning, instead of going ahead and getting upset, she took this as a message from Hashem, and she said, what can I do different? Right? And that is exactly what we're talking about over here, that anything that happens in our life, there's a reason for it. Each and every detail in our life that's happening, there's a reason for it. There's it's something to do with our essence and how we should be able to fix a certain thing that we didn't. That the reason why we came to this world for, the reason why Hashem woke me up in the morning. So that's why Hashem is sending all different types of hints to us throughout, the day, throughout our lives. So then we come to the point where a person can actually be very, very bothered by something in a way that he thinks that it's the most horrible thing that's happening to him in his life. This is something I cannot do. It's too hard. It's too difficult for me. So he is, and it gives him the like the thoughts of maybe thinking like, how could a God do this to me? Like it's too tough. It's too difficult, right? But the reason why a person comes to this world is purposefully for that reason. And therefore, if I'm going through something that seems so difficult, like I think the Baal Shem Tov says that the Yetzer Hara comes to us, and sometimes he lets us do things that are, do a chesed for somebody and do this. Not a problem. He doesn't go and get in our way. He lets us do it, right? Because those are the easy things. But then when it comes to the tough things, that is something, because the ikr of the whole purpose of the Yetzer Hara is not to get us to not do mitzvahs. It's to be able to come to getting upset at Hashem, to having regret on something good that I did. Those are the things that are the reason why why the purpose and the job and getting us depressed. That's the purpose and the job of the Yetzer Hara. So and ultimately not coming to our goal, our destination in life. So so he continues to say that our main job in this world, in order that the reason why Hashem brought us down, is to whatever detail that we're going through that is hard for us, that is exactly it, with all the constrictions and the difficulties that come with it. And that's why it says mikem. Like before we were asking, one of the questions we said, is ki yakriv mikem, that a person that brings from you, in plural. What does it mean from you? It should be a person that brings a carbon. So he says, what is mikem? He says two things. He says, first of all, mikem, I think this is from the Beis Avram, the Baal Shem Tov, that he brings this down. He says, mikem is the acronym of Mida Keneged Mida. Okay? That Hashem plays measure for measure. So for whatever way that something that I did in my past or whatever, that's why I'm going through this thing, right? And therefore, if I could go ahead and it's too tough and I'm going to, that's it, throw in the towel and that's it. Or I go ahead and I do it anyway and I persevere, right? Then what happens? I'm bringing that mikem, that I'm not just bringing, there's one way that it says that a person can bring mina behema, mina bakar, mina tzon. There's different ways we can bring a carbon, either from the domestic animal, either from a cow or whatever, or from a sheep. There's different ways you can bring different types of animals, right? Or you can bring mikem, that same animal that you're bringing it's from your essence, from yourself. It's not just I'm bringing an animal. I'm bringing part of me that was so hard to deal with, and I'm going ahead, I'm bringing it in a way that that's something that was so difficult that I felt I was never able to do it. I persevered and I did it. So that's mikem. That's what the pasuk is talking about, that I am going ahead and overcoming and bringing something of myself. It's not just the carbon. It's bringing, when we say if we take upon ourselves a fast, there's a Rabbanu Shalom that you say right before in mincha time, right before you're taking upon the fast, and it says that my minimum of fat and whatever that I'm losing, that blood and that fat, it should be like a carbon before you, right? So that is the same thing. So I am going ahead and taking that because I'm working myself even without fasting, right? Because Hasidim say don't fast, but give yourself to Hashem, right? And that's one. And I saw something that from the Shem Mishmul that Baruch Hashem, one of our students here that come often. I want to mention his name, Moshe Aaron Banamas. He left the sefer. I asked him if I could use it, and I put some notes in here in that, and he said, pleasure. And it really is connected. It's for Purim, but it's really connected with what we're talking about. So if we look in the Megillah, it says that it talks about the history of Esther, right? So if it's a storybook, you go into the history of the person, but the main character, any character, you tell a little bit about them. That's fine, but this is more than just a story. This was done with Ruach HaKodesh, and therefore, why is it listing, and why did it have to be that she was an orphan from both her mother and her father? Esther was an orphan for both mother and father, right? So why did it have to be? So and not only that, we know that Esther, it says Esther is coming from the fact that Vanochi Hester Aster Espanai, right? That Hashem is covering himself. It's a time, and it sounds like it's like a little bit of a lower level for Esther. It's like in the time of Gullus, that she was such a tzaddikus, and her name is called that because of, it was Gullus, and really she was part of the Gula, right? So how is it that it seems like we're degrading her by calling her Esther, right? So he says like this. He says the Shem Yeshua. What?
What is Esther?
Hidden.
Hidden.
Right.
Oh, lastir.
Lastir.
Okay.
Yeah. Haster panim. So says that the Shem Yishmuel brings down. He says that a very interesting thing. He says the because it was such a hidden time, there was no outright miracle. It looked like it was all nature, right? That was happening, but there had to be something new, something different, because it was something that they were dealing with that was not the norm. So therefore, she had to be not the norm. Meaning, normally when a person has a father or mother, he'll go in their ways. There's going to be nature. Like a person develops himself because of what he sees from his parents, right? But here, at a very young age, she lost both her parents, so she had to forge her own way, and therefore it was something of itchachut. It was a newness. It was something that was she forged a way herself that she never got from anybody else, which is very much like Avram Avinu, right? Avram started on his own, right? His father was an idol worshiper. He had nothing to learn from, right? So therefore, and that might be, he doesn't mention this, but it might be like, Sarah was, the connection of Sarah and Esther, because Esther ruled over 127 countries, and Sarah Imenu lived until 127 years old. That's a connection. So maybe the same thing that they both started. Sarah's father also was not a great person. Brother of Avram was somebody that he only went according to jump in the fire only because he saw that Avram survived, but otherwise he was going to bow down to the idol. So, and then he says a something like a praise for Achashverosh. He says, why was Achashverosh? Why did he merit? Why was he zoche to have Esther as a wife? Like, you can think about it on the other side, that we always say, like, she gave up everything. She'll never be able to be at the time when Mordechai told her to go to him, right? She knew she was giving up. She'd never be able to be with Mordechai again, right? That was a huge sacrifice, right? Of her physical life, right? Of her life in this world. And yet she went ahead of him. So we think about it that way, that she didn't want to live with this, person, if you want to call him that, right? She didn't want to have anything to do with him, right? And yet he's looking at the other way. Says that why is it that Ahasuerus, why did he have the merit to be the husband of such a holy woman? So it says that we see in the pasuk, it says Zachar es Vashti es asher asa es asher nigzar aleha, right? Which I thought about it. If you're thinking about Ahasuerus, and I don't know about what character, he's a little bit of a foolish person, whatever. But one thing we learned from him, one good thing I remember hearing from Zachariah Wallerstein's Zechron Lebracha, that a person, how many of us have a book of gratitude that we write down the people you do? That everybody does something good for you that you have to thank. Very good. But he wrote down everything that people do.
Well, I would maybe do with everything that people do, but it turns out it's only God.
Right, gotcha. Okay, but anyway, but that's a huge thing. And coming from Ahasuerus, I don't have a gratitude book, to be honest. I don't. I should, but I don't. Right, and that's something. So what?
Book of dreams too.
Right. So the point is that that's one thing we can learn from him, but also he's saying over here, which I had a question. It says the way that it says it in the Megillah, it says Asher Nigzar Aleh, that was decreed upon her. What do you mean that was decreed upon her? He remembered what was decreed upon her. He's the one who decreed it. It should say that he decreed. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't say this as a question, but I think that what he says afterwards totally answers both questions. He says that the Gemara says that Keshem she'asa kach nigzar aleh, just like she did, so too it was done to her. It was decreed upon her. Meaning she was evil with the Jewish people and the Jewish girls that are her maidservant. So too she got this terrible thing, right? So therefore we understand now that really yes, we could say that if, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And we could say that Achashverosh was the one who was saying like, oh, it wasn't me, and he's not taking the blame for it. But it wasn't him that was writing it. Who was writing? Mordechai and Esther wrote the Megillah, right? So it should have said Asher Gazar Elea, that he decreed upon her, right? The fact that it says Asher Nigzar Elea, he's saying that Achashverosh really looked deeper inside it, and he says, wait a second. He says that what did Achashverosh remember? He not only remembered that she's dead now, and therefore he doesn't have a queen, but he also remembered what she did, and therefore what the decree happened, meaning there was something that it wasn't just in a vacuum. He didn't think about when he decreed upon her to be killed, he wasn't thinking about his own, he was thinking about what Haman told him, but he wasn't thinking about actually, what she did in the past and this and that. And then afterwards, he said, wait a second, an epiphany came to him and says, wait, there's a reason for this. And it makes sense. What? It wasn't a mistake, right? No mistake. That's right. There's no mistakes. So we see this, that because he felt that there was something from Hashem, because he knew about Hashem, right? He was scared of Hashem. He didn't want to do what Haman was the one who pushed it. And he says, you do it here, take my ring, you do it. I won't have anything to do with it, because he was scared. He knew that the Jewish God can do stuff that he doesn't want to happen to him. So therefore he gave it to Haman to do. So he understood it. So he went ahead and he felt that that there was something behind this, and therefore because of that he was zocher. He merited to have Esther, because Esther is all about the hidden, and he was able to see what's hidden. So therefore he merited to have Esther as his queen.
Just from the part of him recognizing why he killed Vashti.
Recognizing that there was,
that there was God's hand involved.
Meaning because
he saw a miracle.
He had gratitude.
He saw a miracle.
He wrote down God in the book. He said, "Oh, thank you."
I don't know. Could be. But what I'm trying to say is that what he's saying over here is when it says Zachar es Vashti v'esasher nigzar aleha, that was decreed upon her, and what she did, it says both what she did and what was decreed upon her, right? The fact that it says that, it's meaning that he remembered everything. He remembered what she did. It could easily mean, oh yeah, she didn't listen to me, and therefore I had decreed her to be killed. No, he's saying more than that. He remembered that what she did in the past, and that's why she deserved that decree, even though he was totally not thinking about that at the time.
Right.
He was just thinking about his own kavod, his own honor, and he was listening to Haman. What? Right, of course. Right. So that's why, right? And what did you say? The top G, right?
Top G.
Right, top G, right? So and then he says one more thing. He says plenty of other things, but this is one last thing I'm going to end with. He says that, it's actually two parts to it, but basically he says that Nes Purim, the miracle of Purim, was really from a light that we were talking about. We're total darkness, right? And it says in Tehillim, it says Gam choshech lo yachshech mimcha. Even the darkness won't darken from me. What does that mean? Meaning from you. Meaning that my light, I won't get even from the darkest of the dark that I am in, because of the life that I'm in right now, and I see only dark. But because if I believe in Hashem, right? That's why it says ve'emunascha b'leilos, right? Boker is easy, right? But when leilos, in the darkness, in the nighttime, I'm still seeing Hashem, right? So he says, if I'm really believing in Hashem, I'll always see light. And it says in Gemara and Yuma that just like when does the Amud HaShachar come? Right, it comes at the end of the night, right? When the deepest of the darkness, that's when the dawn comes out, right? Where is it coming from? It's coming from the sun that is going to be. It's not, the sun's not there yet, but it's coming from the sun that's going to be. So therefore, from that light, the same thing, Esther, even though it seems like it's a degradation to her, but really it's coming at that point when it's so dark, she's bringing the light of the future Beis Hamikdash that's coming when it's so dark, and that's why she was called Esther. And in these days of Gullus and Hester, these days of exile and hiddenness of Hashem, it's something that is so deep and hidden from us in a way that there's no way that we can have any mikatreg, prosecutor to go against, because it's so dark anyway. Like if I have something good going for me and this and that, then the prosecutor comes, he doesn't deserve that, right? But if it's so dark and there's nothing, so there's no prosecutor, it's totally, and that's when we can come and get out of the gullus and get out of it and see the light. But Shem is brought very soon in our day, and everybody should have a wonderful Shabbos, a great.
Amen.